Okay, another question on this side.
Good evening. My question and concern is that the immigrants that are separated from their parents, which is a troubling situation to me, but who ministers to these children? Many of the children are small babies. They don't know their mother and father, and some of the mothers and fathers have been deported back to their own countries. So what happens to the child when they don't have anyone to tell them about Christ or mentor to them?
Yeah, I want to say too, I think that we all know that the world is broken, right? And I think that when we see brokenness in the world, it can be an opportunity to show God's compassion in a way that points to Christ, right? Jesus said, "Let your good works be done among men, so that they may honor your Father in heaven," right? And I think that there are times when, and I say this carefully, there are times when God will break our heart in a certain area to compel us to be active, to do something about it. Now, I'm not saying that if you feel sorry about the kids, you need to go down to Texas right now or something like that. Just to be clear, but God can prick our hearts with things such that it moves us to action, and it can be an indicator of something that He wants us to be active in. I think about, as Pastor Tony mentioned, like slavery. When you look at right after the Civil War, right, the African enslaved persons. Obviously, literacy was extremely high. Illiteracy, was extremely high because they weren't allowed to read. But with that being said, right after the Civil War, what you see is missionaries from the North going down to the southern states and teaching former slaves how to read. And within 30 years, within about a generation, illiteracy decreased by about 70%. This is documented, right? And that allowed for African people who were newly freed to then make a new life for themselves in this country, But it was in part, believers, getting involved, showing compassion, and then addressing the brokenness in this world. And so I think when we see brokenness, one of the first things that we ought to think is this an opportunity for me to show God's compassion and show what God is like in this situation? Jesus also said that the harvest is plenty, but the laborers are few. Pray to the Lord of the harvest that He would send laborers. So even if, let's say, that God may not be having you directly to go down there or do this or do that, you can certainly pray that He would send laborers to show forth His compassion and ultimately preach His gospel so that we're pointing to Christ.
Another question right here.
Outstanding answer, Adam. Outstanding answer.